Now joining us live from Abuja, the nation's capital, to give us insight on this development is Dr. Benga Adeoye, a public affairs analyst and economist. We thank you so much for joining us at this time, sir.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. How are you doing today?
So what do you make of this new development?
It's a fantastic development. It has its pros and cons, and it's going to take time for people to adjust to this new system. But in our circles at the economic policy group, we already know that what we follow after the redesigning of the Naira will be a review of the cashless policy. And so what is implied is that the government of Nigeria is serious about cashless policy. And you know that in other countries, if you go to banks to say you want to withdraw $10,000, the security people will be on the trail of that customer. So what is implied now is an individual from January 9th or so, you cannot withdraw more than 100,000 cash in a week. And then for corporate bodies, you cannot withdraw more than 500,000 in a week. Even though some other people will tell you that the cash transaction they need to do goes beyond 500,000 even in a day. But then we just must abide by this. If you have legitimate business transaction that is not from corruption, that is clean and clear, you should be ready to receive the money into your account. So what is implied is that artisans, suppliers, and whoever is doing anything for you should provide their bank account so that we can pay directly into your account. And then the government will be able to trace all transactions. Not only that, it will reduce the volume of cash in circulation. And I'm sure that the central bank new notes that are coming out, they will print less than 1/3 of what we had in the circulation before. So it's a good
Do you think this development is targeted at some individuals?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you can't rule that out. Number one, politicians who thought that by January, February, they are going to get into the banks to withdraw a large volume of cash will be restricted from doing so. Number one, there will be no serious cash in the circulation. There will be no serious cash within the bank to collect. But by the way, we should note that when somebody has gotten money without working for it, they will not mind to pay the 10%. So I think the central bank needs to take note of that, because for every law, there are loopholes that allows people to do what you think you don't want them to do. Now, if you say when you withdraw anything above 500,000, you are going to pay 10%. So what that means is that if somebody decides to withdraw maybe 50,500,000 naira or 100,500,000 naira in a week, he's just going to pay a penalty of 10% on the 100 million. Now, that is 10 million. If somebody has gotten money into the company account through illegitimate means, through corrupt enrichment, is not going to bother about the cost of 10 million if he's going to use it to achieve something. So I would think that beyond imposition of penalty of 10% or the 5%, we should have certain policy on the parallel line running to restrict even that carrying out of cash transaction going forward, by making sure that when you come for that cash, you are not going to even get it. So forget about the penalty, we are not going to give you. So for those who think we are going to buy votes in 2023 election, big problem for them. For those people who receive money that they do not work for, big problem for them. And then it's going to help security in the country, because everybody knows that you don't have cash. When you enter the bank and you come out, you cannot take out more than 500,000 in a week as a company. So company vehicle leaving the bank, we already know that they cannot even have more than maybe 100,000 at any point in time, most times, because 500,000 a week means in 5 days, you get only 500,000. So it's a good development targeted at people fomenting trouble for our country. And of course, those that are receiving cash for ransom, they're not going to get the cash. So you want money for ransom, give your bank account, security will be able to track you down through that.
Thank you so much for your view on the news.
Thank
And
you,
that's Dr. Benga Adi, a public affairs analyst and economist. Now joining us live from Oka, Anambra State is Chris Azal, head of Civil Society Network. Good evening and thanks for joining us on Galaxy TV News tonight.
Good evening, it's my pleasure.
So how did you receive the new policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria that limits withdrawal to 100,000 naira per week?
Truly, it was received with shock and level of amazement. And, it was like a bolt from the blue. We are just coming from the redesign of the Naira and all the modalities put in place. And before we could even relax to internalize the outcome and all that, this news just came in. We've been trying to look at it, but I think it is still early in the day to run into conclusions. Because from what we gathered, what we've read from the newspapers and watched the news, I think the idea needs to be well thought out, properly thought out, to be thought through. As a lot of meditation and meditating needed by the apex fan. A lot of sensitization should be done. And in the areas of like awareness creation, there's a lot of work that needs to be done for the citizens to really understand it. The CBN is still talking about sanctions. We don't know the level of these sanctions. We do not know the impact of these sanctions. It's not properly explained yet. So that is how we've just received the news so far.
Now redesign was the action preceding this latest one. Isn't the government being too fast on its policy of going cashless?
Yes, I will speak like an ordinary citizen. And I reside at the grassroots. I just came from my village to Oka this evening. So I think it's a huge shock for the citizens. The man that just spoke was talking about cashless policy and all that. But this is coming with a lot of drawbacks. If you look at the level of financial inclusion for our people, there's still a very long way to go. There are still many rivers to cross. For instance, if you talk about, sanctions, or if you like, the idea of now paying a certain percentage, 10% of the withdrawal, a lot of this will favor the big guys. The masses will suffer about this. So what I'm looking at is that it will make life worse for the average citizen. It will even worsen the level of insecurity from the way we're looking at it. Because what it means is that we might revert to the state of nature, of life being nasty, short, and brutal. In fact, if you do not have cash and you have goods, there is every likelihood that the strong men will overpower you and take your goods. Because if people do not have access to money readily, you begin to see a situation where people will be intimidated. Farmers could have their goods, their wares, products stolen or forcibly taken away. So it becomes a lot more frustrating to the average Nigeria, the average common man. So that is the way it is. Unless the government and their handlers will come up with a better explanation. The period in which they are talking about is at a time in January where people must have spent almost all their resources. It becomes very difficult. In the localities, how many financial institutions do you have? You can see that even this POS business has empowered a lot of people. It's putting food on the table of many Nigerians. If you put in this measure, you almost kill the POS business, and you put a lot of people out of job, and hunger and poverty will persist. You will even endanger people's lives more, because when people don't have access to funds, they become very desperate. So those are the areas we are looking at. Life will become turn to the Hobbesian lifestyle, the Hobbesian era of life being short, nasty and brutish. It will get to a level of dog eat dog. We will take our people back to Stone Age. That's the way we are looking at it, and that is what it is. Unless the CBN and these handlers will have everything, so they just tell me, when people cannot go out there and make withdrawal for their daily needs. Look at the level of inflation. For crying out loud, what is 20,000 naira for an average person to survive with a family? So for me,
thank you very much for your input on the news. Unfortunately, we do not have much time, and I'm very sorry to cut short your flow of thoughts. And we thank you very much for being part of our news.
Thank you.
And that is Azo, head of Civil Society Network. And now moving